In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this intro title animation in Premiere Pro. And the first thing you're going to want to do is to create a sequence. So you're going to go into your project, right click, new item sequence, and then that gives you options. I kind of already have my cinematic 16:9 there, and that gives us the timeline down here for us to place really whatever we want to place there. So now you're going to take your text tool, just click on that, and then as you can see, there's nothing down here, and we just have a black empty screen. So you're going to take the text tool and then click on the screen itself, and that gives you this little text box. You can see that it added a video track down here, which is just our text file. So next thing you're going to want to do is, while having the text box selected with the text tool, you can go ahead and input your text, and then input the font that you want. In my case, it's Nexa Light usually, and then I make the gun Nexa Bold. So that's just my own personal kind of thing. So we can go ahead and put it right around in the center, and then it looks pretty good already. The first thing that you can do, just to add a little bit of flair, not even flair because it's pretty boring, you can go into your video effects, and then you can search for cross dissolve. So video transitions, dissolve, cross dissolve. And then what you can do is you can place it either at the start or the end, and we're gonna go ahead and do both of those. So we'll place it at the start and the end. And then to magnify it, you can hit Alt and then scroll the mouse wheel up, and that makes your timeline expand and contract. So go ahead and drag your cross dissolve a little farther so you get a nice gradient, like so. You can see that it's a nice slow fade in. Same thing on the very end. So now you've already gotten a really simple fade in, fade out. I really wouldn't recommend you do anything super fancy just starting out. So if you're really not comfortable keyframing this next part, this initial fade in, fade out with the font that you want will work really well for, like, you could use this for 90% of what you want to use it for, and it'll look good, it'll look professional. Let's add the first step of it looking interesting. So this is going to be what is called keyframing. Keyframing is basically customizing the effect that you're placing on either text or video, and just manipulating it to do what you want it to do. So we're gonna be in our effects control window. You can see if we X out of that, if you click anywhere else other than the text, you'll see that in the box effects control up here, the text information will show up. And then when you deselect it, then the effects control window, there's nothing there. So you want to make sure that what you're trying to manipulate, you have selected. So we have here text up here, Nolan gun. So we're gonna scroll down and find scale. So let's widen this window out a little bit, so then we have a little bit of room to work with our keyframes. Alrighty, so this is the whole range. You can see how we have the fade in, fade out. We're manually sliding it around. So we're just gonna add a slow scale fade in. And so we're not gonna do a scale up and then scale back down. We're just gonna completely have it moving forward very slowly as we go. So what you wanna do is go ahead and create a keyframe, which is this little toggle animation button here. And then we'll go ahead and bring that down. And then you'll see we have this little diamond shaped thing with a little dot underneath it. So we're gonna move that all the way to the left. There's no scaling happening right now because that keyframe is at 100%. Now that we have our first keyframe, or our first 100% keyframe scale point in place, the next thing you're gonna wanna do is go ahead and select in the window this little crosshair, which is gonna be your anchor point. So the anchor point essentially means that it uses that location to base all of the other scaling, position, movement off of this central location. So if it's off to the left, it's gonna scale from that location. But if you're in the center, it will scale based on the center. And that's what we want. Alrighty, so now that that's done, we're gonna go ahead and make our scale 105. We'll start out with that and see how we like it. And we'll go ahead and move this scale point all the way down to the very end. So essentially, we're done at this point if we like the way that this is scaling. So let's go ahead and deselect it, play it through, and see how it looks. All right, so we should probably scale this a little bit faster. If we go to our text, scroll down, you can see here's our keyframes. One issue that you might run into is that as you say, okay, I want it not at 105 over here, I want it close to like 108. So you go ahead and make it 108. And now what you've done is you've created a keyframe in the center of it, and you don't want to do that. So what you want to do is select this little arrow that brings you to that end keyframe of 105, and then that will enable you to change that specific keyframe instead of creating another one, if that makes any sense. So let's go ahead, make this 108, and then let's see how it looks. All right, I think I really like how that looks. It gives a nice slow fade in, and then it gives you a nice slow fade out. I would say that this would work for a nice cinematic title if you're making a film, or if you're just titling a video. So essentially we're done at this point. You've got a simple fade in, fade out with a small bit of scaling happening in there. And I think this could be a really nice text look that you could use to put in your video. Alrighty, now that we have the simple fade in and fade out all taken care of, we can go ahead and add kind of that, I call it secret sauce, it's not so secret. You're gonna go over to effects and search for blur, and there are a lot of different types of blurs that I haven't really messed with, but what you're gonna look for is the Gaussian blur. You're gonna go ahead and drag that onto the text, and then you can see you have vector motion, Gaussian blur, and then the scaling manipulation under text. So what we're gonna do is do something similar to the scaling keyframes, except with the blurriness of the whole entire text block. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a keyframe right here, and we're gonna raise it up to, let's say 15. You can see that gives it a slight blur. And let's drag that over to the very beginning so that at the very beginning it's blurry, kind of obvious. So you can see that throughout the entire video, the Nolan gun is quite blurry. Now the effect we're trying to go for is like we have a camera on the actual text, and as the text comes in, because of the way aperture works on camera and the way it creates depth of field, we want it to be out of focus when it's smaller, and then we want it to slowly come into focus as it moves forward. So, and then as we move it forward, let's say right around here, we want it to go completely sharp and then have it completely in focus there. So really, this is pretty much it. So we go ahead and play it. We have it blurry. Let's go ahead and play it in full. So we play it, got the fade in, slightly blurry, and it is completely sharp now. So you can see that it gives it almost the illusion like you have a camera pointed at the text and that it's coming in and out of focus, or rather coming in focus. And like I said, if you want to completely skip the tutorial, I have this motion graphics template in the description where you can download it for free. Anyways, I hope this was helpful in some way, and we'll see you all in the next video.